Explosions at two of the bridges connecting Russian-annexed Crimea with the other Russian-held parts of Ukraine. The second attack on one of the bridges in 6 weeks. The local Russian-backed governor says damage to the important supply lines were caused by Ukraine's NATO-supplied Storm Shadow missiles. Like this one. President Volodymyr Zelensky signing one of the Storm Shadows provided by France. Note the Eiffel Tower on top of Ukraine's trident symbol. Zelensky posthumously honouring an Air Force member on the country's Air Force Day and praising service members for their efforts. Earlier this week, he said training on Western-supplied F-16 fighter jets will start this month. Zelensky said this overnight airstrike on a blood transfusion centre is a war crime. It killed 2 people.
The generals who've seized power in Niger say they've closed the country's airspace until further notice in response to the threat of military intervention against them. The announcement came as a deadline expired for them to restore the elected president or face possible action from the West African regional grouping known as ECOWAS. A spokesman for the military junta made the closure announcement on television. He said the armed forces were ready to defend Niger's territory. Some neighbouring countries, including Mali, Burkina Faso and Guinea, have voiced support for the coup leaders. And Algeria, which borders Niger to the north, has said it is categorically against armed intervention.
At least 30 people have died and some 100 others were injured when a train went off the tracks on Sunday in southern Pakistan. It's believed some 10 carriages overturned, trapping many passengers inside. As rescue operations continue with teams trying to free people from the wreckage, officials say the death toll could rise. It's not yet clear what caused the accident, but officials say initial investigations suggest the train was travelling at a normal speed.
Tonight, federal investigators charging 2 U.S. Navy sailors with a shocking betrayal, stealing defense secrets and selling them to China. In both cases, the sailors were allegedly approached by Chinese spies and offered thousands of dollars in exchange for delivering classified details about naval operations. It's unclear if the cases are connected. The most serious charge of espionage leveled against 22-year-old sailor Jinchao Wei, also known as Patrick Wei, on Wednesday.
Israeli forces have killed 3 Palestinians south of Jenin. They opened fire at a Palestinian vehicle near Araba Junction in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces say they, quote, foiled a terrorist cell that planned to carry out an attack. It follows last month's military assault on the Jenin refugee camp, which was the largest in decades. Only 24 hours ago, a Tel Aviv patrol officer had died after being shot by a Palestinian on a street in central Tel Aviv.
We start in Syria, where the country's official media says that Israeli airstrikes targeted areas in and near Damascus early on Monday morning. The alleged strikes, the first since July 19th, are said to have killed 4 Syrian soldiers and wounded 4 others. Syria's state-run Sana media outlet is reporting that the strikes took place at around 2:20 a.m. local time, which hit and damaged targets. Explosions were also heard above the city at around that time. Air defense systems in the Syrian capital were activated against the attacks, with the media claiming that it managed to knock down some of the Israeli missiles.
The Philippines is accusing China's Coast Guard of firing a water cannon at one of its supply boats. The vessel was on a routine troop rotation mission in the South China Sea. The Philippine Navy says it happened near a submerged reef. A handful of its troops lived there on a rusty World War II-era U.S. ship. Well, the latest encounter took place near the Second Thomas Shoal. It's a submerged reef that China says it has indisputable sovereignty over. The so-called Nine-Dash Line marks Beijing's claim over nearly the entire South China Sea, but that's disputed by other countries in the region. A 2016 UN tribunal ruling said Beijing's claims were groundless.
A minibus plunged into a ravine in Morocco on Sunday, killing all 24 people on board in one of the North Africa's worst ever road accidents, officials said. The passengers were traveling a mountainous route to a weekly market in the town of Demnat when the minibus overturned on a bend. Accidents are frequent on the roads of Morocco and other North African countries, which see thousands of road deaths annually.
Recuperali tutti, tutti. Forza, bravissimi, li abbiamo presi tutti quanti.